Michael Porter Jr. The 6'10 small forward has one of the best shots in the league. His shot is pure and clean, and the ball often goes in without even touching the net. He's an offensive mismatch for whoever is guarding him. With his 6'10 height, he easily shoots over smaller guards like they aren't even there. And he is fast enough to speed by a big defender, but tends to shoot over them because they're not much taller than him. And after watching him since he came into the league, I think I've noticed something about his shot that could be an issue. I was watching a Nuggets game where Michael Porter Jr. just seemed off. He missed a couple shots and his body language just wasn't good. He ended up getting benched for Bruce Brown, who was having a much better game. And I thought to myself, it's alright. Shooters like him get in slumps every once in a while, but he'll eventually get back to shooting good. The next game I went into it hoping he could make a couple shots and feel better. He did way more than that. He came out on fire and lit it up in the first quarter and was amazing the rest of the game. And this really got me confused. And I really started to watch him, watch his body language, see how he started games. The next game, he was back to missing shots in the first quarter and poor body language. He had a bad game. So I decided to see if there was a trend or correlation I could observe through statistics. I wanted to see how much of a confident shooter Michael Porter Jr. really is. In my opinion, there are 4 types of shooters. The first one is a rhythm shooter. Think of Luka Doncic and Trae Young. These guys love to shoot off the dribble and play the game at their own rhythm. The second type of shooter is a volume shooter. Think of Julius Randle, Buddy Hield. They play with a miss every shot you don't take mentality. And the third type of shooter is a confident shooter. Think of Klay Thompson, Bones Highland. These guys know that they're good at shooting and don't get discouraged by misses. And then the fourth type of shooter is when you can combine all 3 of those. That's where you get the Currys and the Lillards of the world, aka the best shooters in the league. But where does Michael Porter Jr. fit? He's not a rhythm shooter. He can take shots off the dribble, but normally doesn't handle the ball, and he excels in the catch and shoot situation. He's not a volume shooter. At the time of recording this, he sits 41st in the league for 3 points attempted. So that leaves confident shooter. And I think Michael Porter Jr. is the least confident shooter in the league. Let me explain. From what I've watched, it seems like if Michael Porter Jr. starts off hot, then he'll be hot the rest of the game. But if he starts off slow, then there's no hope. Too many times I've seen him miss a couple shots in the first quarter and disappear the rest of the night. So I thought, let's look at the data and see what story the data tells. So first, I wanted to set a baseline of a good performance. I settled on 20 points a game as it was less than the average for the top 8 players in the small forward position. So now let's take a look at Michael Porter Jr. games where he scored more than 20 points. He's played 168 career games and has scored over 20 points in only 43 of them. That's exactly 25% of his professional career. Now my basic theory is, if he starts off slow, then he'll be slow the rest of the game. So let's take a deeper dive into those 43 games where he did score more than 20 points. Specifically, let's look at the first quarter and see how well he shot in that quarter. In those 43 games, he shot 50% or higher from the field an outstanding 81% of the time. Which means that out of the 43 games with over 20 points, he has only been able to get past the mental confidence hurdle of a slow start 8 times. Now this is damning evidence, but it doesn't paint the whole picture. We now need to look at the opposite types of games to see if the theory is true. Let's look at games where he has scored less than 10 points. Also, in the sake of being fair, I'll only look at games where he has played over 10 minutes, as to avoid the earlier games in his career where he only played a couple minutes. So using those two filters, he has played 42 games where he has scored under 10 points and played over 10 minutes. Now in those 42 games, he has shot under 50% in the first quarter of play 58% of the time, meaning that he has overcome the mental confidence hurdle 42% of the time in games when scoring under 10 points. Now, this does show that he can somewhat overcome a slow start, but not to a playable level. Keep in mind, the 42% of the time that he has gotten over the slow start, he still only scored 10 points or under. So, what does this all mean? Through the data, it does show issues with his confidence, but that does not define his game. There are still a lot of ways he can make a positive impact for his team. I do think the Nuggets should focus on running plays for him in that first quarter to help build his confidence. Now, he is still young and has time to build the mental confidence himself. But in the meantime, until that happens, he can rely on his outstanding natural shooting ability and size. If, however, he does ever gain that unbreakable confidence, then the league better look out, because I think he could be one of the best shooters of all time. Thank you for watching the first episode of Net Numbers. This is going to be a show where I talk about the NBA and its players, and we break down stats to help us answer questions. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe, like, comment, and share. Thanks.